In today's video, I'm going to talk deck studies. I love the idea of this being my everyday carry. So we're recycling it. That's simply not going to happen. No, calm down. Okay, that's better, don't you think? I think. Revolutionary, I know. Hello everybody, it's Sylvie. Welcome or welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you're doing all kinds of good. In today's video, I'm going to talk deck studies. I'm going to walk you through the way that I have done deck studies and am doing some deck studies. I'm going to set up a new deck study notebook because I think I'm going to change the way that I do things a little bit. There is going to be a video coming because I am nearly at the end of the journals I have in this tarot journal traveler's notebook situation. I'll link, there's a whole video of how I set this up and I will link that in the description if you want to check it out. But as I'm coming to the end of this, and just as my practice has been evolving over the last year, I'm thinking I want to change up how I've kind of formatted this for my daily, weekly, monthly tarot practice. And at the same time, I also want to incorporate the way I do deck studies a little bit differently. So I'm going to briefly take you through how I've done them thus far, or how I'm doing them, because this isn't finished, and then also set up a new deck study notebook with you. So if that sounds good, if you want to get into some tarot journal stuff, and also this might serve as a little bit of a sneak peek or behind the scenes as I'm figuring out how I want to do my tarot journaling going forward. So if that sounds interesting to you, I hope you will enjoy. All right, so first up, I'm gonna show you the way that I've done deck studies so far, and then how I want to do things slightly differently. It's really in the format rather than the way I actually study decks, because that's individual to each deck that I choose to do more of an in-depth study of. This is the Witch Sister Tarot, which recently-ish came out from Llewellyn. I am doing a quite in-depth deck study with this one because it has loads of inspiration from Celtic mythology, Scottish witchcraft, historical documents around Scottish witchcraft. There's a lot in here that I really want to get into. So this is a deck and associated stuff study. So this has got a whole notebook of its own. So the way I've set this up, at the front here, I've just got a little list of some of the inspiration and sources that Julia Jeffrey used in creating this deck. And then I've got a page for each card, which I've already mapped out. As you can see, I'm very much working through this. And then as we get to the end of the King of Stones, which is the King of the Earth Pentacle suit, I have all this room left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have spreads I do with the deck following this. And then I'm going to, in the back, and I'm just going to flip it upside down because that is easy. This is going to be where I put anything that feels interesting and or relevant from studying or reading up about these inspirations and sources at the front, like Celtic druids, Celtic legends, history, folklore. So it's all going to kind of be in here. As you can see, I am very early stages with this deck study, so I don't know how well that's going to work moving forward, but that's the plan, and that's kind of how I've set up deck studies in the past. I thought, okay, I'll have a page for each card, and then the rest of the book can be for working with that deck, which in the past has always been a little vague. Here I've got, I think there's some spreads in here that I want to do, and also just the associated information, the Celtic mythology and folklore and the Scottish history, all that is relevant. It makes sense to me to have it all in one book. So that's how I've set up deck studies in the past. That's kind of how I've seen other people set up deck studies in the past. So that's what I've been doing. And that's probably what I'll continue to do for decks that require a bit more in-depth study. So for instance, because it's staring at me because I have this in a little basket over here, the Wildwood Tarot, if I choose to do a full deck study of this, will probably be something similar. There's loads of information here. There's a lot of kind of influences that I might like to research and have some notes in side by side with how I'm working with the deck itself. And then I come to the deck that I'm going to be kind of making a book for today. This is the Sustain Yourself Oracle. It's obviously not a tarot deck, it's an oracle deck. If you caught my decks I'm going to work with in August video, I mentioned this deck. I mentioned that I want to read the book and actually work through all of the spreads and ways of working with the cards in this. As you can see, I've been reading it, I've been tabbing it. I've started, revolutionary I know, I've started keeping some books next to my bed, so in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee and kind of waking up, I can read them. I know. But anyway, I've been working through the kind of front matter of this, and then this has all of these spreads. Essentially, they're called consultation games in the book, but they are basically spreads that you can do with the cards, and there's loads. And then there's also suits and ways to kind of read each individual card, like here with playing with the cards, ways to read any given card. So I really want to kind of play with it, and I thought it would be the perfect contender to make a dedicated little book for. So that brings me to, this random cable doesn't need to be here. So that brings me to my books. So very briefly, I'll do a little interlude. I do these kind of monthly, I haven't done today's yet, but I do these monthly daily pulls, and I choose a deck each month. So this month I'm working with the Tarot of the Cat People. I say month, I do them in the zodiacal seasons. So Leo season, I'm working with the Tarot of the Cat People. This is not, in my mind, a deck study. This is more just getting to know the deck. I pull a card a day, I read the guidebook entry, and I jot down what the guidebook has to say. So it's my way of kind of getting to know the deck, getting to know the guidebook, but it's not a dedicated study. It's like a 3-minute practice every morning. For dedicated deck studies, I've been thinking I want to have them in this book with my daily, weekly tarot practice. So I'm thinking I use one of these. This was my deck and walk notebook, and then I realized that that's simply not how my brain works. I can't do the pace of it doesn't work with the way my brain works. So we're recycling it, and this is the beauty of just like a grid notebook. I can use it upside down. So I think maybe I want to have some deck studies in here, and then it could all be in one thing together. I can have my daily, weekly, monthly practices as well as a deck study that I'm doing. I also have this, which is essentially the same thing. This is a B6 size, and I have these B6 lined notebooks, which I was going to use for something else entirely. That simply never happened. So this has just been waiting for me to use it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up with the Sustain Yourself in this book here, partly because these notebooks are slightly smaller, they've got fewer pages, and because I'm not doing a page for each card with this deck, because I just don't think I need to. This size I think will work really well for just filling out all of the spreads. And it can be like a little workbook for all of the spreads and the games in the guidebook for this deck. And then it can live in here. Part of the reason I'm not doing it in this is because I love the idea of this being my like everyday carry and being able to take my deck study notebook out and about with me. But I'm not going to do that with this deck, because look at this book. I'm not taking this guidebook out and about with me. So this is not a portable deck study. It doesn't need to be in this traveler's notebook. I'm also trying not to run away with myself and be like, oh, I should get a second leather notebook cover for all of my deck studies. And no, calm down, use what you've got. And then I'm liking the idea of having several different deck studies all together in one notebook. And the beauty of a traveler's notebook obviously is I can move these out, I can reorder them, I can swap them in. So that's what I'm kind of thinking, how I'm going to do some deck studies moving forward. I can buy skinny notebooks, I can buy big chunky notebooks. So if I want to do something like similar to what I've got going on with the Witch Sister, where I have a page for each card, each 78 card, and then also extra notes and spreads I do with the deck and little bits of extracurricular research that I kind of add in, I can get a fatter notebook and I can have them all in one place, and potentially also have them in here if I'm doing one that is a more portable deck and something I want to keep with me. For instance, if I go away for a weekend and I want to take my decks with me, then I can have this, have my like daily deck, and then have whatever deck I'm studying and kind of keep that going. I don't know, I'm playing with the idea, but I'm going to start it off in this B6 size. So with all of that said, I am going to set it up, and this is actually going to be quite easy to set up because I'm not setting up a page for each of the cards, and I'll show you why. It's because the guidebook, there's not a lot for each card. I don't think it's necessary. The only thing I would want to have would be maybe these at the bottom. There's a key phrase. So each card comes with the artwork, and then on the card itself you have the title and the keyword, and then there's also this key phrase in the book. I don't need to copy that out. That doesn't seem necessary. If I really wanted them on the cards, I could just, I don't know, write them on the back or something. And I can't be bothered. There's 101 cards in this deck. That's simply not going to happen. So what I am going to do to set this up is decorate the cover. I'm going to do a little bit of collage action because, like, come on, with the collage style deck, I simply have to. And then I'm going to maybe write out the suits because I think that would be handy to have somewhere, and maybe color code them because I think I might color the edges of these cards according to the different suits in this deck. So I'll see, but I'm going to start out by collaging the cover. Okay, so I've got some scraps. I recently acquired some 80s National Geographics, which I am so excited to use for collage. And then also this, oh my god, this incredible Reader's Digest, How Is It Done? This is from, I think it was 1990. 1990 is the copyright for this, and it's such good collage fodder. So I'm gonna get to collaging. I'll probably stick some music over the top of this, and I hope you enjoy watching, and then I'll come back to you and decide how I'm gonna set up the pages in here. I actually think I like the back cover more, which I feel like is always the way with these things. I end up liking the back more than the front, but you know, life goes on. Okay, I'm just gonna let all the glue on that dry down, and then I'm gonna tape over it, I think. Otherwise it's not gonna be very hard wearing whatsoever. I love this little chicken though. Do I like that better? Just with scraps over it? I think maybe I do, but then I'm covering the trees up and I liked the trees. Sustain yourself. I do like that better actually. I'm just gonna stick it on. Okay, I don't want to cover the trees or the chicken. Okay, that's better, don't you think? I think. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. Tidy up my desk in the meantime. Okay, I am all done with this little book. So I have covered my collage in packing tape to keep it safe. I've used this neon green label tape. This just says sustain yourself. And then the camera does not like the neon, but this says nature knows, nature is us, which I just quite like. And then what I've written down here, this natural knowing, is basically the ways the guidebook recommends to kind of understand the cards. So be creative with the cards and play with them and embody the card. Use your sensory nature to comprehend a card. Take your cards into nature. Like I'd like this little like reminder to open up the book. And then I think that's it for today. I think I'm just going to use this as like a bit of a journal to work through the spreads and I guess like exercises in the guidebook. I'm gonna slot her in this notebook, and then I'm envisioning just like a book full of little deck studies. Like how cute would that be? And also a little bit more space efficient than a bunch of notebooks. And also I don't need a full notebook for a lot of decks. This I think is like 64 pages. I don't remember, but it's not huge and it should be enough to just like work through the exercises in this book. I'm looking forward to seeing how this works. I hope you've enjoyed this video and this kind of walk through how I'm hoping to do or planning to do deck studies and continue doing deck studies. I'm sure that for decks that require a lot of time, still have a dedicated notebook for some of those. Like I've got a notebook for my Marseille study because that's kind of its own thing. You saw that notebook I've got for the Witch Sister, but I like this idea. This feels a little bit more doable for me, and I think it's also less daunting not having this whole stack of notebooks just to work with a deck. And you know, I love a reason to use my like leather notebook covers, so I can have a whole stash of notebooks. It'll be nice. This is my Sustain Yourself notebook. I hope you've enjoyed this video and this kind of essentially body doubling with me while I figure out how I want to do this deck study, and I'll keep you posted as to how it plays out, how I get on with it, and hopefully this will work and I'll have a nice book full of different notebooks. I just think that would be really nice. And then when it comes to my kind of daily journal, maybe I'll put a study practice in, like a deck study in here. Maybe I won't. I'm unsure. I'm still sitting on that one, but like this is my daily, and then this is my when I want to do a deck study. And I think it would be nice to have kind of a selection of notebooks and decks to pull from. So that is it from me for this video for today. I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you do deck studies, because I am forever curious. Thank you so much for watching. Give me a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my other journal videos. I've got a couple. I'll leave them all linked in the description. I think there's a playlist. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.